Welcome to Business Aspirin, pain relief for business. Clint Junell has managed a restoration company in Dallas since 2008 and is one of the top drying experts in his region. Clint is also the co-founder of JobDocs, a software developed to help his team manage their overwhelming volume of projects. On the podcast, Clint brings together business managers and leaders to share with you how they have overcome their business pains and how you can too. And now, here's your host, Clint Junell.
Hey, everybody. This is your host, Clint Junell. Welcome to Business Aspirin. Today, I have with me Gerrett Stier. Gerret, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm happy to hear that you got the podcast up and running, and I'm happy to be talking to you.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And I was excited to be able to finally get you on because I did yours. When you did your podcast, I was able to jump on, and we had a great conversation in that podcast. In fact, I may get our team just to repost that one as part of one of ours because it was very similar in kind of what we're trying to accomplish today in chit-chatting. And I'm excited to have you on. And so talk to me a little bit about you and about your business, and let's tell about how you got here and who you are and what you do, and let's run it.
Yeah. Well, we'll try to keep it short and sweet. But yeah, my name is Gerrett Stier. I own a company called GMS Distribution. We make power distribution equipment, pretty much specifically for the restoration market, restoration contractor. How I got started, I was an electrician, worked for my dad's company, had my journeyman license, and I was making some power distribution. This is in Indiana. I was making some power distribution, just side hustle, just on the side, wanted to sell maybe 20 of them a year was a goal. And it was just something that I did, like I said, on the side. 2008 comes and cuts my hours in half. My wife, her income gets cut in half. And now I'm just trying to pay bills. So where we were at, this is it's a really interesting part of the story, because where we were at in Fort Wayne, Indiana, You're within 3 hours of Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Indianapolis. If you go 6 hours, you can get to Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Nashville. So you can get to a lot of major markets really quick. I was just putting them in the back of my car, driving, going door to door, and selling them out the trunk of my car. That's what I was doing just to make some extra money. Ended up running across a Ramsco. Everyone knows who Ramsco is. I didn't know who they were at that time, but run across to them. They're like, dude, we're going to sell these across the country for you. You just go home and make them. And it was about 2 years after I was introduced to them, and they just kind of took off. And I quit my job with my dad doing electrical work, and I have been doing full-time building power boxes, ever since. Last year, in kind of perspective, my goal was to do 20. Last year we did 4,000. So
unbelievable, dude.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing. I think, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy this industry a lot. You guys are here to help people. And I look at it as I'm here to help you help people. So we make the power distribution, so you don't have to worry about finding electricity to plug your equipment in. I'll worry about that. You worry about drying out the structure, taking care of the customer. And I'm happy. I mean, one, I love my job. It's fun to own your own business. And but two, to be in this industry and have the customers that I have, it just makes it even better.
Yeah. Well, and I was excited to have you on partly because of the story, right? Because I've known you for at least a decade. Yeah. And so I've kind of watched what you've done and watched you grow. And the funny thing, I see some of the boxes in the background, dude, like you've been building them out, right?
Yeah.
So
we're building them.
For those of you who don't know, the box that he builds, the G unit's what we call it, right? The G unit.
Yeah.
G unit is designed so that when you get in those environments and you don't have enough power in the home, from just the regular outlets and plugs, you can go to the dryer plug, you can go to the range plug, you can find other places to plug in, and the box will split out the power. It comes in a kit now, right? There's this bag, you get this kit, it's got this box in the back, it's got several different plugs on it, it's got this connector, and you go, okay, well, I need a 3-prong range connector or whatever you're getting, right? Yep. And you split the power out, and that gives you the 2 legs of power at the 110 to power your fans and DUs and all that, and provides you additional level of power for a home. And so that affords you the chance to get those extra few pieces of equipment in instead of having to call for a generator or some other, electrician to hardwire something.
Not having enough on the job, or if you're running into your tripping breakers. Yeah, I've had conversations with people they're like, oh, I can always find enough power. It's like, yeah, but how much time did you spend finding enough, and how many breakers did you trip finding enough? This is just so easy. You just plug it in, 48 amps available, run your job.
It's so beautiful, man. And we've enjoyed using the product and having the product available for some of our projects. And the thing that is intriguing to me is it's like you're in the space, but you're very niche, right? Like you're looking for the specific thing. You're providing one singular product to the market, and to run 4,000 of them is unbelievable, man. Like that's an amazing product to be selling, right? And there's a lot of opportunity still on the table for you, and that's exciting, dude. So let's talk about that. So worked for your dad. The economy crashed in 2008. Mm-hmm. Everybody's, trying to reel to figure out what they do in order to survive and make the ends meet. You hustle.
Yeah.
You go out and hustle. You have this product. Doesn't look like this current product. The original,
right.
Version 1 is very different than what you currently have in place. Right. But you go out and hustle and you sell some of them. I didn't realize where Indy was that you could reach those other markets so readily, but that's amazing that you happen to be in that spot.
Because that's the thing, right? If I wasn't in Fort Wayne, I don't know how I would have done it. I wouldn't be able to hit so many so fast.
Yeah. Unbelievable. So very fortunate. That's kind of where you were at the time. And that's unbelievable. So, you had to make something happen. And so that's part of business too. Right. And that's like, would you say part of what made you successful was it had to work?
Yeah, to a point. I mean, in that 2008 moment, it had to work. I had to do something.
Right.
So once there was a little bit of momentum, a little bit of a ball rolling, it was like, okay, we got to do this. This has to work. Yeah, I would agree with that.
What was the thing that finally said at the end of like it's time to quit and move full time just into this? Let's talk about the moments. What were happening there?
Well, that was very strategic. So I know going back, the book Entrepreneur by Dave Ramsey, Entree Leadership by Dave Ramsey. Because I didn't know anything about business. I mean, in a sense, my dad had a business. It's a service business in a local market. I knew some, but when you start moving into a national manufacturing, it's a very, very different business. It's a very, very different game, very different way that you it's different. So I listened to that book while I was making, I remember I had it playing in the background. I bought the CDs at the time, right? That was like back in 2009.
It's not on Audible. This is not digital. It
wasn't on Audible.
Put something in, push play.
Yeah. It wasn't on Audible. So I'm listening to it on CD in my garage, in my workshop while I'm building boxes, and I'm just taking notes like, okay, yeah, I need to start doing this. So that was one of the things that I was doing to learn what to do. And in that book, it tells you how to transfer from, your full-time job to your side hustle. And so it was basically just taking that playbook and going, it was Dave Ramsey's money. So it was looking at, when do I have enough income coming in from my side hustle that replaces, my current job to where now, I can go full time with that. So it was strategic. It was planned. And in that though, I mean, there's a point where, it's maybe making 80%. So you're still working your full-time job and you're basically working a 3/4 job, at the same time until that one can completely replace the other. So yeah, I mean, there was probably like a 6-month period where it was, those 14, 16-hour days. Like I would go to work, I'd do my electrical, I'd come home, I'd eat dinner, I'd go out in the shop, and I'd be out there 5-6 more hours building power boxes.
Right.
So, I mean, it was very strategic. It was very planned. And I waited until I could completely replace my income before I made that jump to the business.
Okay. And I think that's, obviously wise, right? To be able to have some income and know you had the income. What was there anxiety around leaving your job? Like, you're making some money now. It looks like it's replacing the income, but you still have to go, okay, is like sustainability, right? Okay. I can do it now, but am I going to be able to do it? Am I hitting it during the high? I mean, how this business runs, right? It's cyclical.
Yeah.
So it's, am I hitting it during the high time? And that's what I'm seeing, or.
So fortunately with that, I mean, it's my dad's company. So at any moment I'm like, hey dad, I don't have anything going on next week, So, I mean, there were times where I would go back and fill in. I also had a lot of people in this industry know Chris Laney. He's out of Fort Wayne also. Me and him are good friends. Even before the power distribution, we were good friends. And so I could pick up hours with him too, if I needed to. So there to your point. Yeah. I mean, at a time, it's not Now you're in manufacturing and the income's so steady. It's not a paycheck every 2 weeks now. It's coming, in waves. But I was able to supplement that too with my relationship, having a relationship with my dad and his company that I could kind of pop in and out when I needed to. And then also with Chris Laney, I could do the same thing with him.
Sure. So let's talk about like some things that as you make that transition and you're running your own business, what are some things that you experienced that were pain points in regard to being able to operate and run your own thing and be on your own? And
it's all the stuff that I guess for me, the stuff that I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know, the stuff that you don't think about, the UL listing, as
a product. Yeah. As an electrical product, you're throwing into something, right?
Right.
Somebody's house. If that joker catches on fire and burns somebody's houses down, then that's your liability is high. Sure.
So that UL listing is important, and then the insurance, and then you get the bill for the insurance. You're like, wait, what? How much is insurance? So I think it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of those kinds of things. I mean, every time you turn around, and so I remember like kind of making a joke, but it's like, I have to go pay this person and pay this person so that I can go sell something, so that I can make some money, so that I can pay an accountant to tell me how much I can keep so that I can get paid. It's like you pay so many people before you get paid, and then you pay the government.
Yeah, up front.
And
that's the funny thing that I say to people all the time is it's a really romantic idea and great idea to have your own business until you have your own business.
And
then it's hard, dude. And then it's the stress of keeping it all going, and like you've got a family you got to take care of and feed and ensure that you're paying the bill for the building and then paying the light bill and paying the insurance, and you got all the vendors you have to pay, and it just keeps coming. How many employees do you have currently?
Currently just two. Two. I've got one guy that works with me in the warehouse, and then I have a sales rep that's a team member that is making calls and just making sure people know about the product.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's amazing that you still have a staff that you can kind of run this with, though, because that helps take some of the pressure off of you and affords you the chance to help grow the business.
It does.
And navigate some of those pain points.
It does. And I think that's the other thing too. I mean, and it from business, you wear all the hats, you wear all of them. And sometimes, it's so, at least, maybe the grass is greener on the other side, but it's like, if I just had a division that I could just focus on, if I could just focus on the production, or I could just focus on the purchasing, or I could just focus on the sales, or I just focus on the marketing, or just focus on the admin, but it's like, you can't. It's all of it every single day. And any of it can be a fire that needs to be put out. Anything can be immediate and emergency at any time, any day. And it's you get pulled in so many directions that for me, it is hard to kind of stay focused. And I've had to do, work and do a lot of different tactics to make sure that I can stay focused on certain tasks, because you can get pulled away so fast because you're wearing all the hats, you're doing all the jobs.
Yeah.
So it's difficult.
I'm going to want to talk about that because a lot of our listeners are new entrepreneurs, right? And they are just starting a business, or in some cases they're still trying to get to that first $1 million in revenue that they're trying to hit. And so they're having to do all that. Now, I've done it, right? You do it. It's exactly right. Okay, well, crap. I got to figure out about the Facebook ads, and I got to figure out about the Google ads. And then I've got to make sure that all that's taken care of. And then I got to do emails. And then anybody that has any problem that needs to come talk to me, I got to be able to address that and navigate it. And then if there are client problems, I got to address the client problems. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy for stuff to slip through the cracks, and to keep it all in your head is difficult, which is, it's part of the reason I built a software program to begin with, is because I couldn't on the project side. That system doesn't do anything to help me navigate. Okay, what about the Google ads? And what about the Facebook ads? And what about all the other parts and pieces that go into it? It's strictly just the project side. So let's talk about some of the methods or processes or whatever you've done that you found valuable to help you ensure you're getting the majority of that stuff done, at least on a daily basis.
Yeah. So, the very first thing is some quiet time in the morning with my daily planner. I've kind of perfected my daily planner. I made it myself. Like I built the template, just on Word or something. But I built the template, and basically I've just taken planners from over the years, taken the things that I liked about them and done it. I'm going to see where it is. I was going to show you one, but I don't know where my notebook went. Anyway, oh, there it is. Well, and the other thing too, I got a digital notepad, which has been
nice.
Huge. So I actually downloaded the daily planner template right on here, and we're probably gonna be able to see it on the screen, but I can just tell you, I mean, the kind of the topics and stuff that I have on here. Today's focus, write that in your checklist for your to-dos. There's a note section. I keep track of my meals. I keep track of my water. And then I have my schedule that goes from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. The date, Monday through Sunday, and then good things that happen today. So it really takes you, you start the morning with it. And then the nice thing about this is, when it's on the digital, you can just go to the next day, copy, paste, bring to the next one. So anything that didn't get done from your previous day goes to your next. But that morning time, quiet time, where it's just dedicated to just looking at that and planning out your day. If I don't plan out my day, it goes to shit so fast and it's not productive. And I'm very big on productivity and being effective and being efficient. Like those are if you would want to describe me and what's important to me, those are the things that are important. I want to be productive, effective, and efficient. And that daily planner is what helps me do that. It helps me right away. The very first thing is, what's today's focus? And sometimes there's not like a focus, but if there is one though, this is the time to figure it out right away, right in the morning. What is today's focus? And then your to-do list. And then you also have to keep up with your meals and your water. That's important. Your health, you're healthy. You're doing a lot of stuff to stay fit and active. I put it right on the planner. Like I keep track of it. And so that's the first thing that I've done, is to have that daily planner. But then, those plans go out. I use Traction. I don't know if you're familiar with
EOS. Yeah.
So I use.
We've had a lot of conversations about that on the podcast too, in terms of guys that use it and navigate part of it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So that's the other thing. That's a weekly meeting, and that's set, and it has its own checklist and worksheets and objectives, and you look at that weekly, and you have your scorecard to keep track of all the things that are happening in the business, because you have to get it out of your head. You have to get it out of your head if you're going to stay focused and productive on other things. So the scorecard is huge, and actually I can bring my scorecard up right here, and I'll just, because I think the scorecard is a big deal for me, and I know when I've talked about it with other people, they're like, "Oh wow, that's great." So on my scorecard, just real quick, I can't show it to you, but sure, we're keeping track of first our assets. We have open sales orders, inventory, receivables, our checking account. And then we total that up. We have our liabilities, our open purchase orders, our payables, and the credit card balance. And then those, we basically have an equation that then gives us a number, our assets divided by our liabilities. And then we can just look at that number real quick and see just a quick health of the company. And then, the team members that I have, they have their numbers that they keep track of. So Duke in sales, we're keeping track of our previous 3 months of sales, our last year's 3 months, our year-to-date goal. And then he keeps track of his new calls, his demos, and his new accounts. And then on my production side, the assemblies that we've shipped, our longest ship date, oldest sales order, and how many assemblies we have on the shelf. And those, by just keeping track of those, and that gets updated weekly, at any point I can go to this, I can see trends. I mean, after you do it for so long,
sure,
you can see trends, but it's so quick. I mean, before this scorecard, if you would have asked me, how is your business? Well, let me take the next 3 hours and run reports and analyze them, and I'll tell you. By updating the scorecard every week, I can look at this, and I know in 2 seconds how the business is doing, or where my attention is needed. So the scorecard is huge. That's part of Traction. That's part of the Traction EOS. Weekly meeting, and then those weekly meetings get broke into quarterly meetings, which then the quarterlies go to yearly, and the yearlies go to 5 year. So basically, with that, it's all about planning. It's all about planning and then just executing. I think the other thing too that's helped me is kind of patience a little bit too, though, because things can change. If I decide to do something, well, for instance, the podcast is a good example. When I decided to do a podcast, I said, I'm going to do it for 6 months. That's anytime I decide to do something, it's for 6 months. When we did the scorecards, like, we're going to try this. We're going to do it for 6 months. And then we'll assess at that point and see, is this something we want to continue doing or not? But I always give myself that amount of time to really kind of invest in something before I make a decision to either cut it or keep going with it. So I think that's Yeah, it's about the plan. It's about the plan. It's about being patient. It's about working the plan. And like I said, with the traction, they start at 5 years. What do you want to do in 5? Break that down to what do I need to do this year to get to that 5-year goal? Then you break that down. What do I got to do this quarter to make my year goal? And then you break that down. What do I got to do this week to meet my quarter, to meet my year, to meet my 5-year?
Right.
And then those all get reassessed annually.
And then you use that along with your planner. And that's what keeps you, I like what you said, productive, effective, and efficient. I like that. The goal is to be productive, effective, and efficient. And I like you saying that. And EOS does that great, right? So those are amazing tools on both parts.
Yes. So I would say anybody that's starting out, you're overwhelmed. I know you are. It's that plan. You got to put the plan together, and you have to start organizing your day daily to meet those goals. Your daily meets your weekly meets your monthly meets your quarterly, I mean, it's on and on, but you have to have that plan. Otherwise you don't know what you're doing. Well,
if you listen to Traction, right, they'll say, if you don't know where you're going, you just might get there.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. It's like, well, I don't know what I'm just, okay. So I'm just out here working and I don't know what I'm trying to get to. I don't have any real plan to get there. Then you're going to wind up wherever you're not trying to get to because you don't know.
Well, and I've had those years. I've had many of those years where, I'll write down a yearly goal and at the end of the year, I didn't hit it. And next year I have the same yearly goal. How do I have the same yearly goal year after year after year? I'm not going anywhere. I don't have any traction.
Right. Exactly. Right. Exactly.
So once we started implementing that and I've been using that for over a year now, I mean, things are really, really taking off and it's all out of your head. There's a plan. You can stay focused on it and then you can gauge it and see how you're doing. Make adjustments if you need to.
Yeah. Well, and it's good that you've done that at this point before you're huge staffed, right? Because huge staff, it's harder to implement something like that. So I think kudos to you on getting it, recognizing it, and executing on it and getting it implemented and running the EOS in your business is a smart way to do that. There's a couple of different products out there that are good. Like Scaling Up is one. Some of the guys I know use.
Yep, Scaling Up is another one. Yeah,
and EOS is the one that we use, right? Like I'm a fan of the EOS product and Traction, and I think it's valuable for us to have, to navigate what our niche is and all the parts and pieces that go into doing the Traction side. And
well, and you said something where we're saying you're implement it now before you have the big team. And we had conversations, with Duke and with Greg, and they're like, why are we doing this? It's just us. And I was like, okay, well, if we're growing, do you guys want to try to do this later when we're 10 people, or would we rather do it now? And as a business owner and, a new person to management, a new person to leadership, I'm like, guys, I kind of need the practice. I need the practice. I need to run these meetings. I need to have an agenda. I need the practice before, we get to a point. This all needs to be done.
Kudos, man, for sure.
So even if you're small, like you go to Traction and they're talking about a company that has 100 employees, maybe you don't have any employees. It doesn't matter. Start it, start learning it, start practicing it, because if that's where you're headed and that's where you're going, you're going to need these skills in place to get there.
Absolutely you are. And I'm 100% in with what you're saying, because the reality is, like, if you delay things long enough, you're going to find yourself so far behind that it's hard to catch up to where you need to be. So it's much smarter to do it now. And I get it, right? I'm that guy that's like freaking hate the whole corporate side of things and the rules and the meetings and all the things you have to do. And it's just like, that's why I didn't want a job, right? I didn't want that. But then you get in a spot where you have to have it and you recognize like, that's why this exists. I get it now. And then you just start to learn to implement it. So at the same time, you got to be able to buy your team in at the same time, right? Just like you did with your guys, like, there's only 3 of us. However,
right.
This is where we need to be. Let's make this work. Let's execute it now. Let's be good at it. And then when we have more people, we all do it together well. And it's easier to get everybody else onboarded that way and ready to go. Yeah. Well, so let me ask you this then. And what do you think is the best decision you've made in business is?
Best decision I made in business. I don't know.
It could be that. It could be implementing EOS. I mean, it could be saying grabbing a process.
I mean, it's definitely the process. I think where I was going to go is, my dad taught me this because like I said, Dad had the electrical company. I mean, I was out at 12 years old, 13. I mean, I'm working every summer with Dad and making money. My senior year, I was only going to school until 10 o'clock. And then I was heading to the job and running a crew. So I've always worked hard. I'm not scared of work. I'm not scared of a long day. I'm not scared of labor. I'm not scared of hard things. I think I don't know if that's a decision, but I think when you're in business, you have to be able and willing and happy to do hard things. When things get hard, it's because you're doing hard things, and you have to be able to do that. So I think that's probably one of my biggest strengths in business, and having this one and getting it to where it's gone is it doesn't. Yeah, I'm not scared of a 16-hour day, and I'm not scared of another one tomorrow. I'm not scared of the hard work. So I think that's something that you have to just have it in you and be ready for it. And it doesn't get easy. Owning your own business does not get easy. It's hard, and it's hard because it is hard. It doesn't get easy.
That's right.
So I think I don't know if that really answers your question, but I think
it does. It does at some level. Like, the best decision is to go to work. Yeah. Like, be willing to go to work. And so I talked to, I don't know if you know Chris Fisher from Balefish or not, but he was on the podcast previously. And he said in his podcast, he was like, I knew I was going to get this started and I had to commit. And basically he had lost his job and he had $2,300 left. And he says, like, I got to go do something. This is what I got to do. I know this business. I can start my own. And he said, I went and sat down with my family and said, look, this is what it's going to take. In order for us to make this work, this is what it's going to take. It's going to be hard. It's going to require some work. I'm not going to be 100% available right now for all the things that I would like to be available for. It will get us some freedoms later. But right now, I got to go to work. And I think that's important for everybody to listen to that's trying to start something or trying to grow something is, like, if you're weak-minded or weak-hearted, go get a job. Yeah. Go get a job, work for somebody else.
And there's nothing wrong with that either.
There's not anything wrong with that. You've got to decide, because this is going to be hard. Now, choose your hard. Is it hard to work for somebody else because the way you're wired leads you to want to be out doing your own thing and working for yourself and navigating something? Great. That's going to be hard. So you've got to decide to choose your hard. And in your case, you're like, I'm okay with it. Like, let's go to work. If it's hard, it's hard. I can make that happen. And I'm full in on that, dude. And I love hearing that. And I love when we repeat that sort of thing to the listeners is, don't hear this podcast saying, oh man, this is how you're going to fix all your problems. And we're going to make your life easy and you're going to be rich because you listen to our podcast. No.
Tell me what podcast that is. I'd love to listen to it.
Yeah. If there's one out there that's like, this is easy. Here's a button, just push this and it's all going to work. Or, this is the magic treatment for all of that. The reality is it's going to be hard and some of it's going to suck. And, if you got to go to work Friday night at 6 p.m. because that's what's required and you were supposed to be having dinner with your bride, you got to go to work. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, baby, we have dinner later, but they've got to understand where you're at too and what's going into that. And if you're willing to dive in and make it work, that's something that's amazing. What other questions or what other statements would you want to tell somebody that we haven't talked about so far? Like, what's some advice you could offer in what you've done? I think people don't have a big enough oh shit fund. You have to have an oh shit fund. Something's going to happen. And I can give you examples. For me, usually something happens once a year. 2 years ago was the big one. We have the shipping issues, and my shipping charge went from $6,000, which is what I had budgeted for, to $15,000. That's a big difference. That's a big jump. And I mean, and you're talking about, my revenue is just over $1 million. So that's a very substantial jump in money. Yeah. If I didn't have my oh shit fund, something to cover, right? That'd have been really difficult. Now, if I'm trying to save up over the next couple of months to come up with that money, like now I've already missed the ball because now I don't have product here. I mean, it's just a trickle effect. But so the oh shit fund, the other one that we just had happen this year. So I made the move from Indiana to Washington 3 years ago. I still had my accountant in Indiana, but I'm looking for an accountant in Washington. I finally got a great group earlier this year, and they start going through things and they start asking me questions about where's my L&I tax, where's this tax, and my Indiana accountant didn't know that there were these extra Washington taxes, so they haven't been paid for 2 years. There's a $13,000 oh shit fund, but you know what? It came through. It was covered, and we kept rolling, and it didn't slow us down. But those things are going to happen. I'm sure you have your own stories too.
Those things are going to happen. You're not going to plan for everything. Something's going to happen, and you need to be prepared for it. You have to have a plan for it. Yeah. So like I said,
what would you think if you were to tell somebody that's getting started, or trying to grow, like, do you think there's a number that needs to be in the shit fund? Like, is there a percentage or something, or a dollar amount? Like, where do you think
I'll go back to entree leadership, 3 to 6 months of expenses. Whatever your expenses are, total them all up and make sure you at least have 3 months. And if you can have 6, have 6.
So before they pull the trigger, or before they do what? Like, what do they cut out in order to get to that point?
Well, what do you mean? I'm sorry. What do you mean?
Well, so if you've got to build a slush fund, right?
Yep.
You got to build that out, and you're currently just working and building your revenue and doing the things you need to do, then what do you eliminate in order to take that extra money and put it aside? Like, what kind of actions would you take to do that you think is the most valuable? If there is any. It may be a bad question, honestly. Right?
I don't know that 100%. I don't think I 100% understand the question, but at the same time, I mean, I think I do. You got to, if you start early enough, you can build that 3 to 6 months. I mean, it just right away. It needs to be built into, your product, or like in mine, it's a product and a profit margin, and that, I need to have money there to put into it. So, I mean,
you build your shit fund out of each unit. Some percentage of each unit goes to your shit fund.
Yeah. Until it's funded.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it would be, I mean, for me, I'm pretty aggressive. So I would just take all the profit until that shit fund's back to fund it. So once we pulled it for the taxes, I want it built back up immediately, because I don't know when the next one's coming. So I'm going to just go lean for the next however long I need to, until that fund's back to where it needs to be. And then as we grow, I mean, that's one of the things in our annual meeting is we look at, there's a topic and a point. We look at that fund and go, does it need to be more, or does it need to be less, or does it need to be adjusted, or is it good? And then we make that decision and move on. So that's an annual thing that we look at. But I mean, entree leadership, 3 to 6 months of expenses. And then that's worked well for me. I haven't had anything come through where I couldn't cover it with 6 months of expenses.
Sure. And that goes back to it's hard, right? Sometimes you got to go lean. You got to cut stuff out. You got to, I can't go to this trade show. I can't, whatever, have this subscription or whatever it is, right? I got to drop a couple of these things in order to make sure that my fund is back where it needs to be. Take a piece of every project, put it in toward the slush fund.
Because what I would look at, me missing a trade show isn't going to bankrupt me.
Right.
Me not having that fund could really hurt me.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure. Absolutely. Well, I love it, man. And I definitely appreciate the time. I know I'm trying to be cognizant of the time with you, and I know you got things to do and you got to sling out some more units, man. So, Gerret, I really appreciate you being on. Thanks for the time. Thanks for the friendship.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for bringing a niche product to the market that we needed. And I'm excited about it, man. And I definitely will catch back up with you. We may circle back for a round 2.
Dude, I would love that. Yeah, I had a great time. Good questions. I hope people, that are listening were able to get something out of it that helps them in their day and makes their life a little easier while they're doing the hard work.
Absolutely. And guys, if you're in the restoration space and you need to find that extra way to get a little bit of power, Gerret's your guy. So we'll make sure there's a way to connect with you through the podcast, and they have access to reach out to GMS and get you guys. But Gerret, thanks so much for being on.
Yeah, dude, it's been fun.
This has been a Business Aspirin, Pain Relief for Business podcast. If you're a business owner trying to overcome your business pains, follow us on Apple Podcasts or visit our website for more information, job-docs.com.